This is the AI Executive Brief, and I'm Stephen Forte. This is our weekend edition, where we put the headlines aside, pick one topic that matters, and go deep. No rapid fire, just clarity on something worth understanding well. This week, the AI hire everyone is getting wrong. By the end of this episode, you will know exactly what kind of person your organization actually needs to lead AI transformation, and why the candidate everyone is calling their recruiter about right now is almost certainly the wrong one. That is a hire you can make differently starting Monday. Let's get into it. I want to start with a number. McKinsey put it out last year. 88% of companies are using AI. Only 6% are seeing real value from it. Let that land for a second. 88% using it, 6% getting paid back. Those are not rounding errors. That is a structural problem, and when you dig into why, it is almost never the technology. MIT looked at enterprise generative AI pilots and found 95% failed to deliver any measurable P&L impact. S&P Global found that 42% of companies outright scrapped their AI initiatives in 2025, up from 17% the year before. Foundry surveyed data leaders at large companies, and 91% said cultural and organizational challenges were the primary barrier to AI success. Only 9% pointed to technology. 9%? So why is everyone running to hire a CTO? Here is the pattern I keep seeing, and maybe you have seen it too. A board or executive team decides AI is a priority. Someone says, we need the right technical leader for this. The recruiter gets a brief. They come back with candidates, experienced technology executives, long resumes in software and SaaS, probably ran infrastructure at a meaningful company, managed vendors, negotiated licenses. On paper, impressive. That person gets hired. Month 1, they are meeting with vendors. Month 3, they have a strategy deck. Month 6, there are pilots. Month 12, the pilots are still running. Month 18, someone quietly asks, are we actually doing anything differently? The room goes quiet. A Fortune 500 logistics firm went through exactly this, spent a year building advanced neural network architectures. At the quarterly business review, the CFO asked one question: how has this improved our operating margins? The room fell silent. The models worked perfectly in a sandbox. They were entirely disconnected from the ERP system that ran the business. Warehouse managers were still using legacy spreadsheets. Millions spent, zero workflow change. That is not a technology failure. That is a leadership failure, and it is the same failure, playing out again and again because companies keep reaching for the wrong kind of leader. Before I tell you what the right hire looks like, let me be clear about what I am not saying. I am not saying technology does not matter. I am not saying you do not need CTOs. I am not saying AI is simple. I am saying that the challenge of AI transformation inside an established organization is not primarily a technology problem. And the people who are best at solving technology problems are often the worst equipped to solve it. Deloitte's CTO, and credit to him for saying this publicly, identified what he called a diagnostic signal for companies getting this wrong. They spend 93% of their AI budgets on technology and 7% on people. The workflows, the training, the culture, the redesign of how work actually happens. He called it completely out of sync. He also said it is timeless, the same mistake made across every technology wave for 30 years. BCG has a framework they call the 10-20-70 rule. Only 10% of AI value comes from the algorithm, 20% comes from the data, 70% comes from process and governance transformation, 70%. So we are hiring for the 10% and ignoring the 70%. Here is the thing, and I've been sitting with this for a while. AI is not a technology initiative. It is an organizational change initiative that happens to use technology. The analogy I keep coming back to, when we hire people, we do not focus primarily on what software they know. We focus on personality, judgment, how they will fit into the workflow, who they will report to, how they will communicate. We design work around human beings. Now we have what I think of as digital employees, AI agents, unlimited in number, tireless, capable of executing workflows at a scale no human team can match. And we are managing them like we manage servers, not like we manage people. We need to think about designing work for these agents the same way we think about designing work for humans. That is not a CTO function. Never has been. I want to spend a minute on IBM Watson Health because it is the most expensive cautionary tale in this space. IBM invested roughly $4 billion building Watson Health. The flagship project was a partnership with MD Anderson Cancer Center. The goal was a tool to help oncologists make better treatment decisions. They spent $62 million over 4 years. A University of Texas audit found the recommendations were described internally by IBM's own deputy chief health officer as unsafe and incorrect. They never treated a single patient. The division was eventually sold off. The postmortem is telling. The conclusion was not the AI did not work. The conclusion was that IBM's leadership was dominated by sales executives who lacked the deep healthcare experience needed to navigate the nuances of patient care. They prioritized marketing and acquisition over workflow integration with the actual end users, the physicians and nurses whose practice was supposed to change. $62 million, zero patients treated, because the people leading the initiative understood technology and sales, but not the operational reality of a hospital floor. That is the template. And it is playing out at a smaller scale in companies all over the world right now. So what works? Private equity figured this out faster than most because PE has no patience for a 2-year transformation that does not move EBITDA. Korn Ferry published a report last year on a new role emerging across PE portfolios. They call it the AI operating partner, not CTO. Operating partner, and here is the key line from that report. Concerns that traditional tech-focused leaders may lack the depth to maximize AI's potential have led some private equity firms to introduce this new position. The first two archetypes Korn Ferry identified for this role are business leaders and commercial operators, not technical architects. Heidrick and Struggles called the hiring of this role an enormous spike. What are firms looking for? Executive communication, stakeholder management, the ability to look at an organization, understand its workflows, understand where the friction is, and identify where AI actually creates advantage, not just where it can technically be deployed. Here's where I land on this. The operating AI partner is someone who has been an operator. They have run departments, managed P&L, felt the pain of broken workflows, and they are technically fluent enough to know what AI can and cannot do, but they are not primarily builders. They are designers of organizational capability. The mid-market PE model is instructive. Proof of concepts are expected in 2 to 4 weeks, not 18 months, 2 to 4 weeks. That speed is only possible when the person leading it is not building custom infrastructure. They are assembling proven tools against specific business problems fast. For most mid-size organizations, the AI advantage is not going to come from building proprietary models. It is going to come from implementing tools that already exist, Claude, Perplexity, ChatGPT, N8N, Zapier, and wiring them into the specific workflows of the business. That is not a CTO job. That is a builder who understands operations. Here's a rhetorical question I want to leave with you. Who in your organization is already doing this? Because they are there. I promise you they are there. BCG calls them anchor employees, people who are not just talented, but looked up to by their peers. BCG found that companies who identify and empower these internal champions saw an 89% increase in AI tool usage, compared to mandates from technical teams, which tend to generate resentment and workarounds. The energy does not come top down. It comes from peers. Think about your AP team, your investor relations person, your head of HR. One of them, I would bet on it, has been quietly building things. Building reports in a fraction of the time, automating reconciliations. They never mentioned their tools in a meeting. They just got more work done than everyone else. And if you went and asked them what they have been using, they would light up. That is the person you want leading your AI capability. Not exclusively, but as the champion, the builder, the translator between what AI can do and what the business actually needs. Accenture ran this playbook internally and grew to 50,000 citizen developers, reducing demand on their formal IT team by 30%. Forrester found that citizen developers, business operators with domain expertise, not professional coders, are already delivering 30% of generative AI automation apps. And here is the thing that flips every assumption about the mystique of AI. The only skill required to program an AI is the English language. You describe what you want. The AI executes. The most important skill is not coding. It is understanding the business problem precisely enough to describe it with precision. That is a business skill. Your AP manager has it. Your ML engineer probably does not for AP workflows. The Ignite Tech story is the inverse example. A CEO who had to replace nearly 80% of his staff after a failed AI rollout noted the most striking thing. Technical staff were the most resistant to AI adoption. Marketing and salespeople were enthusiastic. The mystique of AI, but it can't really do that skepticism, lives most densely in the people who spent their careers understanding the limits of old systems. Now, let me talk about the architecture of what gets built, because this matters enormously. The traditional enterprise software model is one giant platform, Salesforce, SAP, a single system that can theoretically do everything. Pendo's research found that 80% of features in the average software product are rarely or never used. Salesforce has roughly 200 features. Most users engage with 10 or 12 of them. You are paying for 200 and using 12. I've been thinking about this a lot, and the economic model of enterprise software is actually designed around bloat. The vendor profits from features you never touch because those features justify the contract size. Meanwhile, your team is navigating a system with 500 capabilities to find the 3 they actually need. That is not a tool. That is a tax on your people's time. The alternative that is emerging, and I think it is the future, is a constellation of smaller applications, purpose-built, laser-sharp, maintained by the practitioners who use them. Your AP team builds the tool that handles their specific reconciliation edge case. Your investor relations person builds the tool that drafts the quarterly update. These people understand the nuance of their challenges in a way no outside developer ever will. They can describe the problem precisely. And with vibe coding tools, AI-assisted development that requires no traditional coding skills, 63% of users are already non-developers. Searches for vibe coding surged 6,700% in a single quarter last year. The traditional CTO is accustomed to large teams, long cycles, complex infrastructure, and that creates a particular gravity. You hire a great CTO on paper, and 3 months later, they want to hire 6 more people. 6 months later, you have a team of 8 and a roadmap that will take 2 years to execute. Before you know it, you have spent a fortune on people and infrastructure, and the business is still waiting for the value. What you need instead is someone who is sharp and scrappy, who can bolt a solution together in hours, put it in front of users, iterate based on feedback, and ship something that works next week. That person is probably not the one who spent 15 years managing enterprise infrastructure. They are the one who has been building automations on weekends because it is faster than waiting for IT. I know what some of you are thinking right now. This sounds like shadow IT. This sounds like chaos. It is not if you govern it correctly. And governance here is simpler than it sounds. Every automation, every bespoke tool, every AI workflow should report to a central catalog, a SharePoint list, a Notion database, a Google Sheet, something that captures what the tool does, what data it touches, and the architecture, documented as a structured note, updated automatically by the tool itself. The AI that runs the automation can also write the report that tracks it. This is not theoretical. Dell's CFO has been deploying AI agents in finance without routing through central IT, and the design includes accountability structures that satisfy regulators. The principle each tool is accountable to the catalog. The catalog is readable by anyone who needs it, including auditors, regulators, and the CEO who asks, what are we actually running? What you avoid this way is what I call the fiefdom problem. One developer builds a complex automation, only they understand it, they leave, the automation breaks. Nobody knows what it did. That cannot happen if every tool is simple enough for its operator to maintain and documented enough for anyone to audit. The constellation model only works if it is legible, and legibility is achievable as long as you build it in from the start. Let me pull the thread together because I want this to be usable. We started with the data, 88% of companies using AI, 6% seeing value, 95% of pilots failing to hit the P&L. The problem is not the technology. 91% of data leaders say it is culture and organizational design. The remaining 9% say it is technology. We looked at the failure pattern, the traditional CTO hire that leads to pilots and sandboxes, disconnected from the workflows that actually run the business. IBM Watson Health at $62 million and 0 patients. The Fortune 500 logistics firm with a perfect model that never touched the ERP. We looked at what works, the operating AI partner who comes from operations, not infrastructure. the anchor employee hiding in plain sight, the citizen developer revolution, 50,000 at Accenture alone, a 4.1 citizen to developer ratio by Gartner's count. We looked at the architecture, not one giant bloated platform, but a constellation of small, bespoke, practitioner-maintained tools, vibe coding, making it real, English as the programming language. And we looked at governance, the central catalog, the self-reporting automation, the accountability structure that makes it all auditable without making it slow. The through line is this: AI transformation is an organizational design challenge, not a technology challenge. The person you need to lead it has a business brain, operational experience, and enough technical fluency to know what is possible, not someone who has spent a career building systems. The systems era is over. The assembly era has begun. Here is the line I want you to take out of this episode. You do not need someone who can build the machine. You need someone who knows which machine to rent, how to point it at the right problem, and how to get your people to actually use it. That is the AI Executive Brief for Saturday, April 4th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, share it with someone who needs to hear it. I will be back Monday with more. Until then, stay sharp,